Hi everyone, and thank you so much for volunteering for Project Homeless Connect 2018 and participating in this training today. The lovely voices you will hear throughout this training are Angie Nelson with Denver's Road Home and Haley Shelley with Mile High United Way. We are your contacts leading up to and on the day of the event, and we'll be guiding you through a brief training today. All right, here's what we'll be covering throughout the training. What is Project Homeless Connect? Volunteer roles and details, what's on your clipboard, tips for a successful day, and contact information.
So what is Project Homeless Connect? Project Homeless Connect, or PHC, is an annual free one-day event that's open to people of all ages who are experiencing homelessness or facing housing instability. Guests are paired one-on-one with volunteers who help them access dozens of vital resources and services that might otherwise take multiple appointments over several days to receive outside of this event. What makes PHC unique to other resource fairs is you, the volunteers. We take great care to provide every guest at PHC with a one-on-one volunteer match to spend the day with someone, navigating services together, sharing each other's stories, and being their personal support for the day. When you registered for your volunteer shift, it indicated your specific check-in time. We recommend that you plan to arrive 15 minutes early, unless stated otherwise, as parking and walking to the event space can sometimes take longer than anticipated, as well as checking in and putting on your new volunteer t-shirt. Guests will start lining up as early as 8 a.m., but the event doors do not open until 10 o'clock. Guests and volunteers are invited to grab a sack lunch between 11 and 1. The doors close to new guests at 2, but everyone who is already in attendance can continue visiting services until 3. Volunteers and providers then join our event teardown volunteers in an all-hands-on-deck teardown to pack up all of the event equipment and materials. Along with our volunteers, our amazing providers make this event possible. This year, we're planning to have over 100 providers available during the event. Here is a description of the main services offered. First up is housing information. This is resource information and eligibility requirements for shelters and housing programs. Unfortunately, given the current housing market, it is not possible to connect guests with an opportunity to move into permanent housing that day. But there are a wealth of short-term options and applications for longer-term programs available. Next up is legal assistance and outreach court. Guests can meet with an attorney or, if eligible, participate in an on-site court session to have outstanding tickets and warrants cleared up. Child care services are being provided by the Early Childhood Education team from Metro University. If your guest has kiddos with them, please make sure they know about this service and accompany them to check in their children at the child care area on the lobby level. Regis University students and staff will be on site offering a variety of medical testing and checkup services. In addition, community health providers are offering vision testing, STI testing, and other vital medical care, including a special area just for women and transgendered guests. Employment. Guests can create a resume and visit the career fair with over 30 employers on site and ready to hire. Benefits enrollment. Denver Human Services will be on hand to process applications for food assistance, cash assistance, and other government benefits. Identification. Guests can order replacements for driver's licenses, state IDs, and vital records. There are some limitations to what documents can be ordered, depending on what information or documents the guest already has. Please pay careful attention to signage in this area so you don't waste time in a line for a service that you can't receive. Wellness. This area encompasses haircuts, massage, chiropractic care, and acupuncture. Some other services include substance abuse treatment, health insurance enrollment, services specifically for veterans, and pet care. Your volunteer packet, which you'll receive at check-in, will have a more complete description of each service area, a map of the event space, and a detailed list of which providers are there.
Now turning to you, the volunteer. We'd like to do a brief overview of the different volunteer roles that complete Project Homeless Connect. Many of these roles are broken into multiple shifts, and some are scheduled for the full day. Please be sure to review the shift time you've registered for and ensure it fits well with your schedule. If something changes and you'd like to adjust your role or shift, please revisit the United Way website where you registered and make those adjustments. If a role or shift is full, that means we have all the help we need in that area for the day. Please review other roles and shifts still available and register for an open one. For this training, we are going to highlight a few of the roles that every volunteer needs to know about. A full description of each volunteer role is listed on the United Way website where you registered. Our Welcome Team volunteers help guide everyone, volunteers, guests, and providers, to the correct area of the convention center to attend Project Homeless Connect. For everyone you encounter, you are the first impression for the day. Each Welcome Team volunteer will be paired, and there are 2 different shifts. The first shift of Welcome Team volunteers will check in with me, Haley, upon arrival until our check-in volunteers are settled. Our volunteer check-in team will be people you go to first when you arrive to the convention center. Please provide them your name, and they will share where you need to go after collecting and putting on your volunteer t-shirt. For all guests and many volunteers, the guest experience matchmakers are the first impression of our event. You will be helping to introduce the guests to their volunteer for the day and ensuring everyone feels prepared to go upstairs into the hall. Remember, a smile can go a long way. Another role for the day are the information desk volunteers. Think of yourselves as our right-hand people during the event. If a guest or volunteer isn't sure where to locate a service or has any sort of a question, they will turn to you. If for any reason you are unable to answer a question, please locate the closest red shirt team member to assist you. A large portion of our volunteers for the day are guest services volunteers. These volunteers are paired one-on-one with guests to help navigate the day. Volunteers will review the guest needs survey and make a plan for accessing those services together. Plan to stay with your guests from the time you are matched until the time the guest leaves. If you finish with one guest before the end of your shift, you are encouraged to assist another guest. In the past, guest services volunteers have worked with one guest the entire day or as many as 4 to 5 guests. It all just depends on what the guest is hoping to accomplish throughout the day. When I volunteered as a guest services volunteer my first year, I worked with one woman the entire day. Initially, when she arrived, she had one goal: take care of a ticket she'd received. Our first stop was to legal and then on to outreach court. She didn't receive the answer she had hoped for regarding her ticket and immediately wanted to leave. I asked her if she at least wanted to grab something to eat and sit down to review what other services were available that day. Reluctantly, she agreed, and after we were done eating, we visited every single table. This is a prime example of how having a conversation and encouraging your guest to think about the options available can change their whole day. And finally, after a guest has visited all of the providers they hoped to, they will exit the hall and provide their clipboard to the checkout volunteers. Please make sure the guest evaluation sheet at the back of the clipboard has been completed prior to the guest departing. Also, please encourage the guest service volunteers that were matched with the guest to go back downstairs to be matched again. We know that whether you're joining us the day before to set up the event or handing out meals and supporting our providers during the event, every volunteer plays a vital role in making this a successful day. Volunteers in each of the roles you see on this screen will receive specific instructions from their area leads once they've checked in.
If you've never joined us for a Project Homeless Connect event before, when you arrive, you'll likely ask yourself, what are all these colored shirts about? On this slide, you will see our shirt color guide for a quick reference. For our guest services volunteers, this guide will also be on your clipboard. But for those of you who are not a guest services volunteer, we wanted to be sure to also share with you what all the colored shirts mean. Yellow. Most volunteers, with the exception of welcome team and bilingual volunteers, will be in yellow shirts. If you are in yellow, this means you are here to help. Red. These will be your go-to people during the event. Everyone wearing a red shirt is an area lead and/or has been part of the planning process. Don't be afraid to approach those of us in red shirts. We are here to help you. You will find Haley and myself in red shirts the day of the event. Quick note, if a volunteer or guest is experiencing a medical emergency, find someone in a red event shirt immediately and we'll radio for help. Dark green. These are our mental health partners. If a guest's behavior is becoming escalated, please look for someone in a dark green shirt to assist you. They will be available throughout the day to talk with guests and volunteers both in the lobby and in the hall. Orange. These will be our welcome team. All welcome team volunteers will be in bright orange shirts to help everyone going to PHC find them and their way. Light blue. Anyone wearing a light blue shirt has indicated that they are a bilingual volunteer. If you did not mark that you are a bilingual when registering and would like to be available to assist guests in this way, please email Haley to update your registration. Pink. Our incredible team providing childcare services will be in pink shirts for the day. And finally, purple. Individuals and organizations providing resources and services during PHC will be wearing a purple shirt.
I hope the previous slides have given you a better sense of the different roles and responsibilities, as well as how your role plays a part in the larger event. These next few slides will cover details specifically focused on our volunteers doing guest services, those volunteers who are assisting guests throughout the event. The following slides will provide samples of the documents you'll find on your clipboard. These include flow of the day chart, detailed service area descriptions, guest needs checklist, a map of the lobby and event floor, and guest survey. This step-by-step guide will give you an idea of the flow of the day and should answer questions for you and your guests about when lunch is served, when to check out, and other important information. This page on your clipboard will help describe the services available in each area. This checklist on your clipboard will be used with your guests to make a plan for the day. This is a conversation starter, not a box-by-box interview. Some guests will have a pretty clear idea of where they want to start, which is great. Let them lead the way, it's their day. Others might feel overwhelmed or unsure. This page can help narrow some options and provide direction. In general, legal, IDs, medical, and haircuts are some of our highest volume areas. If your guest is interested in one or all of these services, be sure to determine the priority of what they want to accomplish and start there. If an area you visit has a long line, you and your guests can decide together whether to wait in the line now or come back later in the day. Do what feels comfortable for them. The actual layout of the lobby may look different than this example from last year. We just wanted to provide you an idea for this training. Communication will be sent closer to the event with specifics of where volunteers should plan to enter, suggestions for parking and transportation, etc. But in general, the lobby is where you'll check in as a volunteer and where guest services volunteers will be matched up with their guests or guests for the day. Other services located on the lobby level include bag check, lost and found for guests, childcare, outreach court, and a quiet space for our mental health team. This is an example of the detailed layout map that will be on your clipboard and posted around the convention hall on the day of the event. Use this to help navigate the space with your guest. Something to also note, we will have access to an elevator for you or your guest if interested. An escalator and stairs will also be available to get to and from the hall.
As we talked about in the event overview, the defining difference between PHC and other resource fairs is the one-on-one connection between our volunteers and guests. Each year, we serve anywhere from 800 to 1,300 guests at this event. Most attendees really enjoy PHC and can navigate together with their volunteer easily. However, we know that some guests are facing challenges that make being in such a large, crowded space feel overwhelming, and they may respond in ways that feel uncomfortable or different to you. Here are some additional tips to help your guest throughout the day. 1. Your guest is the expert on their life and experiences. Provide gentle direction, but let your guest be the guide. You can always offer an opportunity to visit another service or offer encouragement to try something new, but be mindful that many people have been navigating these systems for some time, and their opinions and experiences are valid. If you keep an open mind and encourage your guests to do the same, there will be many opportunities to learn from one another throughout the day. Number 2, practicing healthy boundaries. Sometimes guests will not find the exact assistance they are looking for at the PHC provider tables and might instead ask volunteers for help meeting their needs directly. While we appreciate the big hearts of our volunteers, for the sake of equity and fairness, we ask that you do not provide direct assistance like giving rides, buying items, or providing cash to a guest. Keep calm and carry on. If a guest has a raised voice or is speaking fast, it's important to note that this doesn't always mean that someone is angry or acting unsafe. This may just be how they communicate or how they need to feel heard in that moment. The line is your comfort. If you are feeling unsafe or uncomfortable, please find a mental health partner in a dark green shirt to help with de-escalation. And finally, be compassionate. Ultimately, we know that on top of the many traumas our guests at PHC may have experienced in their lives, that homelessness is, in and of itself, a traumatic experience. We ask that you view each guest at this event through a lens of respect, dignity, and empathy. You can trust that the guests of this event are in need of help of some sort, and that it takes a lot of courage to show up, identify as experiencing homelessness, and seek assistance. And for some practical tips for the day, please pack light. We do not have the ability to check coats, purses, or bags for volunteers, so please only bring what you need. Dress comfortably. We will provide you with a volunteer t-shirt that you will need to wear while you are at the event. The convention hall can get a little chilly in November, so consider dressing in layers for warmth. You will likely be on your feet for most of the day, so please wear comfortable shoes. We will provide a sack lunch for everyone, guests, volunteers, and providers. We'll have turkey or peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with various other items on the side. If you have dietary restrictions or preferences, please feel free to bring your own lunch that day. Please be flexible and patient throughout your volunteer shift. Situations arise that we can't always plan for or predict, and we may need volunteers to jump in and help with guest services or change roles as needed. If you find that you need to leave early, please check in with your area lead to let them know so they can assign another volunteer to cover your role. If you are a guest services volunteer, please plan to stay with your guests throughout the event, from the time you meet until they depart. If you need to leave your shift early, please visit the guest checkout table together with your guest, and we will radio for another volunteer to come up and take over. If your guest is finished visiting services but would like to hang out and wait for a friend, that is just fine. Please stop by the checkout table with your guests so they can turn in their survey, then say goodbye before heading down to be paired with your next guest. And as a final reminder, in the event of a medical emergency, please do not call 911. We have emergency medical personnel on site in the convention hall. If a volunteer or guest is experiencing a medical emergency, find an area lead in a red t-shirt and we'll radio for help. If there is a mental or behavioral health crisis and a guest's behavior is becoming escalated or threatening in any way, please look for a mental health volunteer in a dark green shirt to assist you. If you can't find a mental health volunteer, flag down an area lead in a red shirt and we'll be happy to assist.
From our teams at Denver's Road Home, Mile High United Way, and the Planning Committee, We thank you for joining us for this year's Project Homeless Connect. We hope this training was helpful and provided you with the information and tools needed to have a successful day with us. Knowing that not everything can be covered in one quick training, we encourage you to join us for an in-person training if you feel like you need a little more guidance. Please review the in-person training dates and times on the United Way website where you registered. And of course, if at any time from now until the event you have any questions, please reach out to me. I have provided my contact information here for your reference. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you on November 15th.